Thursday, June 21st, 2018. At around 3:14 p.m., a nursery pickup in Richmond seemed like a normal afternoon. A mother walked her 3-year-old son down a quiet residential road, but before they could reach the corner, something unusual happened. 2 mopeds pulled up with 4 men in total. 2 remained seated. 2 got off and began walking. What followed sparked a national outcry, a turning point in what many had started calling a wave of moped terrorism across London, and it moved everything into high gear. This is the story of a moped gang that terrorized London's businesses and families, and how police began dismantling a complex web of violent and calculated operations. By the end of 2017, moped-enabled crime in London had reached levels never seen before. The offences were fast, frequent, and increasingly violent. In some boroughs, residents were being targeted more than once a day, at bus stops, in parks, outside schools, even sideways, and in traffic. Victims were often blindsided. They didn't hear the mopeds coming until it was too late. Phones were the most common target, but not the only one. Luxury watches, designer bags, laptops, anything that could be sold quickly was taken. Riders would mount pavements and weave between cars. They wore masks, helmets and gloves, rode without plates, and vanished before patrols could catch up. In many cases, the response time wasn't fast enough to even begin a pursuit. Police faced a legal dilemma. Pursuing moped suspects through busy streets carried the risk of serious injury or death. Officers were criticized for backing off, but also warned not to cause fatal collisions. The result was a tactical gap that organized crews were quick to exploit. The crime wave wasn't limited to one area: Islington, Camden, Hackney, Westminster. Borough by borough, the numbers grew, and so did the fear. People began avoiding certain streets. Schools warned parents to stay alert. Even local businesses reported a rise in aggressive thefts targeting delivery drivers. Among the chaos, a smaller crew stood out. They weren't loud, they didn't go viral. Their attacks were quiet, structured, and unusually well-timed. Each hit followed a pattern. Same boroughs, similar timings, near-identical exits. And over time, detectives began to piece together something different about their movements. In February 2018, a covert operation was launched to monitor them. No raids or arrests, just silent surveillance. It was called Operation Fieldhouse. And from the start, it had one instruction: let them run, and mapped out their each point. On New Year's Eve, 2017, while much of the city prepared to ring in the new year, a stolen black Range Rover reversed through the glass frontage of a shop on Kensington High Street. The target was Ultimus, a high-end outdoor clothing store specializing in brands like Canada Goose and Moncler. Within minutes, multiple individuals wearing masks and gloves stormed the premises. They moved with speed, ignoring lower-value stock and heading straight for the designer jackets. By the time officers arrived, the shopfront was destroyed and tens of thousands of pounds in merchandise had vanished. It wasn't the first time that area had seen ram raids, but this one was unusual for its precision. The timing, location, and product selection all pointed to preparation. The value of the stolen items, Canada Goose and Moncler jackets retailing between £900 and £1,500 in late 2017, suggested a clear plan for resale through illicit markets rather than a spontaneous smash and grab. For police, it raised questions about whether this was an isolated event or the start of a coordinated campaign. Less than a month later, they had their answer. The same store was hit again. This time, a security guard was present. When he tried to intervene, the group turned violent. He was left unconscious in the street with serious injuries, later requiring hospital treatment and long-term support. CCTV confirmed what detectives had started to suspect, that this wasn't the work of a random gang, but a structured crew willing to return to the same target even under increased risk. The second raid confirmed the pattern. Same method, same stolen vehicle approach, same categories of high-value stock. For investigators watching under Operation Fieldhouse, it marked a shift in tone, no longer just fast robberies, but deliberate, high-yield attacks carried out with force if needed. Still, officers made no arrests. The surveillance remained quiet. They were still building the case. By the spring of 2018, the gang had grown confident. Their raids had so far gone unpunished, and their ability to strike in high-footfall areas without leaving forensic evidence gave them an edge. But on Thursday, March 22nd, their method brought them to national attention, not because of a high-value haul, but because of a target that was almost untouchable. That morning, technicians were preparing Putney Bridge for the Oxford and Cambridge boat race. Fixed high above the Thames, specialist BBC cameras, some valued at more than £170,000, had been rigged to capture the event. At approximately 10:30 a.m., traffic slowed on the bridge. 2 mopeds pulled up, blocking a lane. 4 men dressed head to toe in black with full-face helmets dismounted. One carried an angle grinder, another gripped a length of metal. Their aim was simple: cut the camera down, secure it on the back of a bike, and vanish into the flow of London traffic. It was a plan they had used before on other targets. But this time, there was an unexpected presence. Off-duty Metropolitan Police Officer Stephen Wagstaff, walking nearby, saw the men working on the rig. Without backup, he moved towards them, calling out in an attempt to halt the theft. One of the riders accelerated towards him, striking out with a boot. Another threatened to stab him. The officer's intervention forced them to abandon the attempt. Traffic was still moving. Too many witnesses had gathered. The gang remounted and rode away empty-handed. But their frustration didn't last long. Less than an hour later, they struck again, this time on Lonsdale Road near Barnes Bridge, and this time they succeeded. The £180,000 camera was gone within minutes. Terry Marsh was not the sort of man whose face was known outside certain corners of West London. There were no brash displays of wealth, no public feuds, no online trail of threats or bravado. His power came from a different kind of presence, one built in silence. Every operation he oversaw ran with the precision of a military exercise. Marsh was 32 years old and based in Fulham. Over the course of more than a year, he built and directed a crew capable of moving quickly across boroughs, targeting high-value goods and disappearing before police could react. The tools of his trade were not just mopeds and bolt cutters, but communication systems designed to leave nothing behind. At any one time, Marsh had at least 3 different mobile phones in rotation, each linked to a set of 20 different SIM cards. They were swapped constantly, preventing tracking through call data. Timings were never left to chance. Targets were surveyed, escape routes mapped, and strike teams assembled with specific roles. Marsh divided responsibilities with care. Riders, lookouts, blockers, and collectors all knew their place in the sequence. This was not a street-level operation. It was structured, layered, and rehearsed. By February 2018, his name, though still unknown to the public, was beginning to circulate in police intelligence reports within Met Police's Operation Fieldhouse. But Marsh wasn't working alone. Behind every raid, every perfectly timed escape, was a crew, each man chosen for a specific role and every move rehearsed in silence. When police surveillance began, linking the same mopeds, the same movements, and patterns of attack, one name stood out at the center: Terry Marsh. But he was never alone. Around him was a tight, disciplined group of 11 others, each bringing a different skill to the operation. Kyan Taylor, 19, from Ealing, worked as a driver and technical operator. He handled mopeds under pressure, navigating blocked roads, oncoming traffic, and rapid getaways. His role often placed him at the center of the chase, using speed and precision to evade capture. Omar Tarfat, 20, from Westminster, was known for his role in violent robberies. When a target needed intimidation or a show of force, Tarfat was often present, a visible enforcer, prepared to escalate if a victim resisted. Josh Strong-Mears, 19, from Shepherd's Bush, took positions as both a rider and a lookout. He monitored approaches, kept track of police presence and signalled when the team needed to move. The remaining 8 men came from varied parts of the capital: Battersea, Ealing, Fulham, Lambeth, and beyond. Some acted as blockers, using mopeds to cut off traffic during an escape. Others carried tools like angle grinders, bolt cutters, and sledgehammers. A few specialized in the storage and transport of stolen goods, ensuring that high-value items disappeared quickly into the resale network. None of them left obvious traces. Across dozens of jobs, no DNA was recovered at the scenes. For months, they operated in the open, confident that anonymity and speed would keep them safe. It was mid-morning in London's West End when the first hit unfolded. 6 men in black motorbike leathers roared down Oxford Street, their route cutting straight through the crowd towards Watches of Switzerland. A red moped was driven directly into the shop's glass doors, a battering ram on 2 wheels. In seconds, smoke and shattered glass filled the air. 2 men squeezed inside, ransacking display cases of high-end watches. Outside, 2 to 3 stood guard with a machete, pacing the pavement, scanning for anyone brave or foolish enough to intervene. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving sledgehammers abandoned on the floor and the store stripped of thousands in stock. Just weeks later, another strike brought an even darker edge. On Bond Street, 3 mopeds arrived at speed. The weapons this time were sledgehammers, an axe, and most chilling, a bottle of noxious liquid. In June 2018, London's moped crime crisis reached a new level of visibility when comedian Michael McIntyre became a victim. At around 2 p.m, he was parked outside a North London school, waiting to collect his 10-year-old son. 2 riders dressed head to toe in black pulled alongside his £120,000 Range Rover. One swung a hammer into the driver's side window, striking it repeatedly until the glass gave way. With the child still in the passenger seat, McIntyre was forced out of the vehicle. A knife was brandished, and within seconds his £15,000 Rolex was torn from his wrist. The gang sped off before police could respond. Witnesses said the attack was over in less than half a minute, leaving the comedian visibly shaken as he comforted his son. The brazenness of these crews wasn't limited to celebrity targets. The following month in Manchester, a separate moped gang tried to steal a motorbike worth around £4,000 outside the university in broad daylight. Students sheltered in a nearby cafe as one of the men attacked the bike's lock with bolt cutters. When the lock resisted, he switched to smashing it, all while his accomplices made gunshot gestures towards onlookers filming the scene. Campus security arrived before the thieves could break it free, forcing them to abandon the attempt and flee. The bike was left damaged but intact. Its owner later said the incident left them unwilling to ride in the city again. On Thursday, 21st June 2018, just after 3 p.m, a quiet residential road in Richmond became the scene of one of the most disturbing moped incidents recorded that year. A mother was walking her 3-year-old son home from nursery when 2 mopeds carrying 4 men approached. 2 stayed mounted, 2 stepped off. One man grabbed the boy's arm. The demand was simple, the mother's ring, but the message went further. The presence of the child was leverage, a way to ensure compliance without resistance. In the chaos, the mother broke free, pulling her son into the road and into the path of oncoming traffic to escape. The men soon leaving empty-handed. The attack might have been just another entry in London's spiraling moped crime statistics, but this one was filmed. CCTV footage showed the whole incident. The video was picked up by national media after being posted online, including by Britain's Got Talent judge Amanda Holden, who called the attackers scumbags and urged anyone with information to contact police. Within hours, the clip was trending, sparking public outrage and questions in Parliament about whether enough was being done to combat what some MPs were now calling moped terrorism. The Richmond incident was significant for more than its shock factor. Police inside Operation Fieldhouse, already months into covert monitoring of a linked West London crew, watched the footage with interest. The escalation in tactics, from property-focused robberies to a direct threat involving a child, hinted at a shift in approach. Whether the suspects were the same or from a different crew, the effect was the same. On Monday, 7th May 2018, London witnessed one of the most dangerous moped pursuits the Metropolitan Police had ever recorded. It began in the early afternoon when a two-stolen moped, carrying 3 men in helmets and gloves, was spotted weaving through traffic in Westminster. Officers moved in to intercept, but the riders had other plans. For the next 90 minutes, they tore across the capital, cutting through 10 boroughs in a relentless attempt to escape. They mounted pavements, forced cars aside, and at one point rode the wrong way down the A40, narrowly missing oncoming traffic. They weren't just fleeing, they were documenting it. Footage later recovered showed them filming parts of the chase on a phone, laughing as sirens grew louder behind them. The ride was anything but random. Along the route, they slowed only once, at a pre-arranged location where an associate was waiting. From the roadside, a can of petrol was handed over in seconds, refueling them mid-pursuit and allowing the chase to continue. It was a sign of planning and communication far beyond a panicked escape. Through central London, past landmarks, and into dense residential streets, the pursuit continued. Police units coordinated to contain them, but the riders' knowledge of backstreets and bus lanes kept them moving. The chase ended only when the moped crashed in South Ealing, but still they ran for escape. But one by one, all 3 were taken down. Phones were seized, later revealing links to multiple high-value robberies under investigation by Operation Fieldhouse. It was the kind of break detectives had been waiting for, a rare moment when both suspects and evidence were caught together. By July 2018, months of silent monitoring under Operation Fieldhouse had built a picture so detailed that detectives could predict the crew's movements almost to the minute. Every so-called burner phone, every SIM card swap, every brief call, all of it left traces. Separately, the fragments meant little. Together, they revealed the full structure of the gang. Patterns emerged. The same handsets moved between the same boroughs, often in line with reported thefts. Numbers went live minutes before a hit, then disappeared until the next job. Phones placed in different hands still travelled the same routes, from staging areas in West London to high-value targets in central districts. By mid-July, the surveillance phase was over. Arrest teams were briefed, addresses confirmed, and warrants prepared. In a coordinated series of raids across Fulham, Ealing, Westminster, and Shepherd's Bush, officers moved before dawn. Marsh was taken first, pulled from a flat in Fulham without a word. Others were caught still in bed. Some tried to run but were blocked at both ends of the street. The searchers pulled together the physical evidence the investigation had lacked. 12 stolen mopeds were recovered, many with tampered plates or fitted with false ones. Around £6,000 in cash was found, along with bolt cutters, sledgehammers, angle grinders, and clothing seen in CCTV from earlier jobs. Items from multiple robberies were traced back to victims, strengthening each charge. The most decisive blow came from mobile data. Cross-referencing location logs with police incident reports, detectives mapped who was where during each offence, linking not just the riders, but the planners, blockers, and handlers. It tied the network together in a way no single witness could. With the evidence locked in and the gang in custody, the case was ready for court. The months of letting them run had paid off. When the case finally reached Kingston Crown Court, the scale of the operation was laid bare. Over months of testimony, CCTV clips, phone data charts, and victim statements, prosecutors walked the jury through a campaign of thefts, ram raids, and violent robberies that had stretched across London and beyond. Judge Jonathan Davies told the defendants their crimes had caused fear and harm far beyond the financial losses, noting that many victims were targeted in public spaces in front of their children, or while going about their daily routines. He described the Richmond child threat incident and the attack on comedian Michael McIntyre as examples of the brazen and corrosive nature of their offending. Terry Marsh, 32, from Fulham, was described as the architect. He received the longest term, 13 years and 2 months for conspiracy to commit robbery, conspiracy to steal, and handling stolen goods. Kean Taylor, 19, from Ealing, received 9 years and 4 months imprisonment for the elite getaway driver and technical operator on mopeds. Omar Tarfat, 20, from Westminster, was given 8 years and 5 months for violent robberies in which victims were threatened and injured. Josh Strong-Mears, 19, from Shepherd's Bush, received 8 years for his role as a rider and lookout. Stephen Weller, 36, from Ealing, participated in high-value raids and camera thefts, was sentenced to 6 years and 7 months. Aaron Pask, 27, from Westway, handled stolen goods and supported burglary operations, received 6 years and 8 months. Scott Lever, 25, from Lambeth, part of burglary teams, jailed for 4 years and 8 months. Vintage John McFadyen, 24, from Feltham, participated in the Richmond child threat incident, sentenced to 2 years and 8 months. Isaac McFadyen, 19, also from Feltham, present with John during the Richmond incident, also sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in a youth offenders institute. Ram Monk, 23, convicted and given 2 years and 8 months. Mitchell Lever, 25, from Battersea, received a 12-month suspended sentence and curfew for conspiracy to burgle. Ryan Moran, 26, from Fulham, involved in handling stolen goods, handed a 24-month suspended sentence with conditions. By the end of sentencing, every core member of the Fieldhouse network was either in custody or under strict license conditions. What do you make of this case and the sentences handed down? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.